It's Tuesday. It's around 11:30, and this is Chattin with CHAP, and I'm your host, Ginger Wade. I'm very glad you're with me today. As you will see in the title, today we're going to be talking about immunizations and exemptions. This is always a hot topic around affidavit time, so we're going to touch on it today. And why did it come up? Well, if you've been paying attention to the news, recently the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, known as the ACIP, voted to include the COVID vaccination to the immunization schedule for children. So this is always a hot topic, vaccinations that is, when it comes to filing paperwork. You know, my school district wrote to me and they wanted my stuff, but, you know, do I have to give it to them? Well, you may or may not know or realize that the state of Pennsylvania in the law has given school directors, it says school directors, superintendents, principals, etc., the job of making sure that all children are immunized. That is actually in the law, and it does apply to homeschool students. So if you go to pacodeandbulletin.gov, code CODE, and bulletin BULLETIN, all one big long word, pacodeandbulletin.gov, Title 28, Chapter 23.83, talks about immunization requirements. And in that code, it does make it clear that homeschool students are in the list of people who are supposed to follow the immunization schedule, and that school districts are the ones who are supposed to be making sure we're doing it. So this is why the school districts always ask you when you hand in your paperwork to also hand in your immunization records. They actually have the law behind them and asking you to submit this paperwork. I know a lot of people get confused about that. Medical and dental are not in the law in the same way. So when we attest that we are taking care of our children's medical and dental, that's actually good for the medical and dental part because it's not in the law the way that immunizations are. Immunizations were included in a different way. So when they ask you for those records, it's actually backed up that they should be. Many school districts have not been doing this for years, and they should be, which is why we're kind of surprised that all of a sudden they're doing it. So it's a little hard when there's somebody, the law backs them up, and they should have been asking for this all along. So when they ask you, don't be offended. They're actually doing their job. Okay, so I'm back. I lost all my people, so hopefully you'll jump back on again. But so we're back to the issue at hand. We are talking about the COVID vaccine being added to the list of required vaccines for children. So regarding the COVID vaccine, that was a suggestion that hasn't been made mandatory. It can't be at a federal level. It's up to the states to make that decision. So at this point in time, the state of Pennsylvania has not issued a statement as to what they're going to do about the COVID shot. Maybe they're deciding, maybe they're waiting. I don't know what's going on there, but there has not been anything mentioned since the CDC made their decision what the state of Pennsylvania is going to do regarding making COVID mandatory or not. I think the flu shot is optional, so that is not a mandatory thing. You don't need an exemption for that. It could be handled like that, or it could be added to the list like the MMR and the DTaP and all those other ones that you're supposed to do. So we have to keep an eye on that. So there's nothing to be alarmed about for the moment regarding that because the state has not made a statement regarding the COVID shot. But I just wanted to talk about immunizations in general. As a parent, of course, we want to raise our children to be the healthiest, most wonderful, functional children that we can possibly do. So we take them to the doctor, we get advice, but ultimately the decision for our children's care is on our shoulders. We make the decisions. So I would just like to put out there for all you parents out there considering immunizations and what to do about them. What is it that is your right as parents regarding immunizations and the immunization schedule? Well, as parents, you have the right to decide which shots, when, and like what schedule you want to go on. So that is your right. It's your right to refuse immunizations. It's your right to take all the immunizations. You get to choose what is right for your child. There are suggestions, obviously. Your pediatrician will talk to you about them. It's your right to do and handle it in the way that you want. So I just want you to be aware of that as a parent. You don't always have to just go with what your doctor says. Pretty much with any doctor treatment. I'm going through some treatment, obviously, with my mouth right now, and they're coming back and telling me what they think the next step should be. And I'm praying over it and trying to decide how I'm going to move forward. And that's my right. It's my right to say no. So we have to remember that and understand that. We have gotten into the habit of just accepting what's said to us, maybe without asking questions or maybe without thinking it through. It is your right to decide what happens in your medical care and your children's medical care. So moving forward from that, I just want you to be aware of your options as a parent regarding care. So now, as the immunization schedule stands, I mean, you take your kids to the doctor, you know what the schedule is. The pediatrician has shown it to you, no doubt. It is your decision how to handle that. So you do have options. So a really awesome thing about living in the state of Pennsylvania is that you can choose. There's medical exemptions, there's religious exemptions, and there's also philosophical exemptions. Not every state allows those three. Some just medical, some do medical and religious, and then there's some that do all three. We still have the right to choose all three in the state of Pennsylvania, which is awesome. So you have many options in how you want to handle medical care in that way. So we have, CHAP as an organization has an immunization exemption form out there on homeschoolpennsylvania.org that you may use. It does quote parts in the law that says that we have the right to file an exemption regarding immunization. So when do you use an immunization exemption form? When is it appropriate? So you file an exemption with your children if you do not vaccinate at all, if you've chosen to not go the route of vaccination, or you've chosen to alter the suggested vaccination schedule. So say you do want to do the DTaP and you want to do the MMR and you want to do that, but you're doing it in a longer drawn out schedule, like they're only starting at age 2, or you're only doing one every 6 months, or you're only doing one at a time, or whatever it is. If you modify the schedule so that's not getting 4 shots at once, which equals 12 shots at once, then you can use an exemption because you're not following the exact prescribed schedule, and that's what you would file with your affidavit. If you choose to follow the schedule exactly as it is, you do it in the timing that the pediatrician suggests, so you don't need an exemption. You just file with the school that you're keeping up. You've done the prescribed thing. So if you deviate from the prescribed schedule, though, you would use an exemption form. So I just want to make you folks all out there aware that you have choices regarding all these things. And regardless of what happens with the COVID vaccine, you have choices. You have choices with what's out there currently now, too. So when do you file it? I mentioned earlier, you file it with your affidavit or your unsworn declaration and your objectives at the beginning of the school year. And like I said, we have a form out on homeschoolpennsylvania.org that you may use. You just print it out, fill it out with your kid's name, sign it, and there you go. If you know others who want to homeschool or need more information regarding this particular topic, especially, please point them to us. Point them to chaponline.com, homeschoolpennsylvania.org. Show them the forms. Show them all the information to give them the encouragement that they need to make this leap. And share them your story. Tell them how you got started with homeschooling. How is it that you made that choice and made that leap? Many parents may want to choose to homeschool depending on how Pennsylvania responds to this news about the CDC approving the COVID shot. So just be prepared to share information with people and point them in the right direction. A lot of times we just need encouragement, right? We just need encouragement to make the leap, make the jump, and you might be that person that encourages someone else to make the leap into homeschooling, which would be wonderful. So make others aware of this exemption form. It's on homeschoolpennsylvania.org. Print it out, share it with others, refer them to this video so they know when it is appropriate to use that form. And I just want to, encourage you to be knowledgeable. Get educated on this stuff. Like I keep saying, read the law. Know what the law is. Go out to that portion of the law that I mentioned earlier. Check out what the immunization law says. I'll go back and read the reference to Title 28, Chapter 23, Immunization Requirements. Okay? It's all out there. You can read it for yourself and see what it has to say. Be educated. Encourage others to do the same. All right? So, keep on protecting your kids as you continue to guide them to follow Christ in all of life. Thanks for tuning in today. Sorry for the blip in the middle. My Wi-Fi must have been goofy. So I hope you all catch up with this again and finish watching it out. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.